Hey friends, welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City just a lovely place to live. I'm your host, Colin Johnson, with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. If you're interested in buying or selling a home in the area, or if you're looking at investing in a rental property, give us a call at 423-930-8003, and we will look forward to helping you. Now, let's get to today's episode. I'm really fired up for you guys to get to meet my new friend, Rebekah Freedom. She is a relationship healer, and she's got a business called Rebekah Freedom, and that's her brand. And so welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I hear you're a podcaster yourself.
So very fortunate to have been blessed with the ability to test run podcasting.
Okay.
And then it was really gifted to me by my friend John. And so there's 85 episodes living out there in the podcast universe right now.
Oh, that's cool. What is the title of it, or where can people find it?
It's called Heard Not Seen Podcast. But unfortunately, John passed in September, so I'm having to go through some...
Try and figure it out. Where are those at? How do I get them on there? I know a great guy that can help you with that. He's got a beard and a hat and a lot of equipment over there. Mitch is the man. So,
Sure.
Okay, so Johnson City Living.
Mm-hmm.
You probably know what's coming. What is your favorite thing about Johnson City?
Two different things. The first is there's no shortage of people to support and help.
Mm-hmm. That's
true. Mental help is necessary.
Yes, we all need that.
Across the board, having worked in addictions for a very long time, that is a sort of underbelly here, and just a lot is needed around that. And then the second thing is, from mountain range to mountain range. The Rockies are gorgeous, and Appalachia is gorgeous, and people compare the two, but they're like, I love the greenery here.
I gotcha.
And
it's a little more stark out there.
Yes. And the fall winds.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
But you guys have aspen season, right? Like
we do. So
for 2 weeks or something like that, maybe?
Or
a week?
Depends. It comes, and then the wind.
Yeah.
The wind
It's
comes,
gone.
yeah.
It's gone. Okay, so where did you grow up?
So born in California.
Okay.
Grew up in Colorado. So I always say born in California, Colorado raised me. So my dad actually went from being this like crazy hippie to a pastor. So I was born in Bible school in California.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with him. But when I was a little baby, he was out on mission trips and things like that. And so I was raised like by the brothers and sisters of Pentecostal is what he was.
I gotcha. So very lively group.
Very lively, yes. It's tambourines running down the aisles, all of that. Yeah, that made up until probably I went to college. That was my
Where'd you go to college?
World. Black Hills State University.
Okay.
And you wouldn't recognize it, just like you think Black Hills State, like that's a obscure little nothing college. But because it was so small, I got an amazing education, and one of my professors used to hang out with Andy Warhol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, my philosophy professor. And you'd walk down the halls and you'd smell sage burning because they did Native American studies since it's the Black Hills and things like that. So
that's cool.
So I had a good time there.
Neat.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you get a degree from there?
I did, yeah. So I minored in philosophy and biology. I double minored because those two things actually make up psychology. So those are the underlying disciplines. And I've sort of been a science geek ever since.
I love biology.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. Just the behavioral part of it. One of my teachers studied the behaviors of rattlesnakes. I'm telling you,
That's cool. Like
I had such an
sometimes
experience.
they behave badly, but it's mainly because we're messing with them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You step on one, they're going to behave badly. They're going to say no.
So Black Hills was like it's such an interesting little ecosystem.
What town is that in?
Spearfish, South Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then during the summer months, I would go work at the Custer State Park. So I would say that foundation, it's crazy to talk about it now because that's 20 years ago for me. That's like that.
Oh, I know. I'm 50. I look back and I'm like, wait a minute. That was 20 years? No, it's 30 years ago. I mean, time flies.
That's a whole other kind of component that is like woven into the business I have here is that we're all facing aging and we all face it differently.
Right.
And allopathic medicine, which is just Western medicine of like cut it out or medicate it, is so dominant in this region. So I've really been diligently trying to find the holistic healers here.
Oh, yeah. I can connect you with one. Ryan Fair, he's our neuromuscular massage guy, but he's also very, homeopathic and very, he's great. I'll connect you with him.
And I'll tie that back to, because my dad went from being a pastor to a chiropractor. And so I was raised in like the holistic mind, the whole mind-body connection.
I think it's fantastic. We had dinner with one of my best friends who's a chiropractor last night, Richard Ballard. And so he's great.
I feel like I just want to be friends with all the chiropractors in Johnson City.
They're all great.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's disciplined enough to cut open cadavers and learn about the body,
you've got right.
Much
and
respect.
then how it all the energy pathways and opening up those where pain is really just a blocked energy pathway a lot of times. And so just figuring out what that is. Okay, so you're in South Dakota, graduated. Where'd you go next? Came here?
So when you go to school in South Dakota, the great exodus is either to Minneapolis or to Denver.
Okay.
And I had friends in Denver.
Yeah.
So this is such a distinct moment. You know, those pivotal moments in life, those crossroad moments. Like I got out of college, I graduated, I kind of went back home to live with mom, was waiting tables, and this guy took a handful of quarters and threw it on the ground and said, "There's your tip." Quit the next day, packed my crap up, and drove through a snowstorm down to Denver, and then started getting established there. And in Colorado's a very interesting environment because it is one door opens the next, opens the next, opens the next. So when I got down there, I ended up working as a personal trainer.
Oh, cool.
Things. Yeah. So the biology and physiology kind of like
went right into that.
Yeah, carried me into that space. This is one of the other seminal moments in my life, really important moments, is like when we moved from California to South Dakota. My dad uprooted his chiropractic practice because California sued him.
Oh, no.
He won it.
But still.
So he's like, we got to go. And then my parents are from, my mom's from Italy, but my dad's from South Dakota. So they went back home. And when they got there, my dad passed. He had a heart attack. So just to block out, sort of give people a little bit on me. So my dad passed, and then I finished my undergraduate. And then I moved to Denver. I'm working. I get a call, your mom's sick. And I'm around 20. So I was 20 when my dad passed, and my mom ended up having cancer. So she passed.
Oh my gosh.
And then I was like, I have to make a decision about my life.
Yeah,
so
you're all alone at that point. Did you have siblings?
I had a younger sister. She's 5 years younger though.
Okay.
So just different ages and stages. Right. Mm-hmm. And so my choice, and that's what's landed me in this career path, was to go on to my master's program at Naropa University, which is in Boulder.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And that was a Buddhist founded school, and it was a really amazing program, one of a kind.
Neat.
Program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm no stranger to grief.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I feel like, there's a separation of counselor or I'm a relationship coach because I haven't wanted to be necessarily constrained by insurance because they can be constraining.
Like, no, you can't bill that, or you can bill that. And,
yes.
Right.
So that sort of decision has set me on this long and sometimes arduous path.
Yes, life is tough at times, for sure. You've had it tough for a while. And then so how did you land in Johnson City? What brought you to our beautiful area?
So again, one of the markers of my personality is to be a gypsy and travel. I've driven America twice.
Nice.
And in 2020, my friend and I took a trip through here, and I ended up meeting somebody, making friends with them. And when I lived in Wilmington for about a year, I was like, Wilmington, North Carolina, not Delaware.
Gotcha.
I don't know who lives in Delaware. God bless. reminds me of Wayne's World, Delaware.
That's cool.
He just was like, I think you like Johnson City. And being the free spirit I am, I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. Now I'm here.
Here you are.
Yeah.
That's awesome. When did you move here?
About a year and a half ago. But I honestly think the answer to that is God's grace.
Yes.
I totally think I'm being planted.
And so you've got to be, well, that's great, but you also have, I mean, like a lot of people say that, but you have to be in your spirit open to that, right? And like following what he's telling you to do. And so good for you that you're following, right? And so.
It feels dicey sometimes.
Well, right. I mean, could you imagine? Yeah. I'm sure. And I'm sure the disciples felt really dicey. Like, we're leaving everything to go follow this guy, right?
Sure.
Jesus. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. So you came to Johnson City. Did you just immediately start your relationship healing practice, or what did you?
No. So I was very fortunate. I've had my coaching company. It started out as a clinical counseling company, Transform Now Counseling. But when I left Colorado the first time, I moved it to just be Rebekah Freedom. And in regards to, I'm getting to answer your question.
I like it.
So
we got lots of time.
What happens in the spiritual communities is people do psychedelics and rename themselves. And I just, being, the little petulant person that I am, I was just like, you know what? Fine, I'm Rebekah Freedom. And it stuck.
There you go.
I was being facetious and it stuck.
Yeah.
And so.
That's fine.
So that happened I founded my business in 2012. That happened in 2015. So when I first got to Johnson City, I was just running my company and just talking to clients from all over the States.
Gotcha.
And then working diligently to find a job. And it took about 3 months after being here to get a job, to find my own place, to get sort of established. And I got hired on at a Suboxone clinic for people that were getting off of meth and opiates. And
which are, seems like a sad environment.
I've got so much compassion for it because one of the concepts of Buddhism is like Tonglen, which is we all are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are not in our own way.
Yeah.
And so it just is a different form of suffering, but it is a really difficult form of, because you see families just self-destruct, and you see these kids get shuffled in the system. And so the environment itself really it's emotionally taxing.
Yeah.
I'm built for it. That's what I mean. I think that's why God was like, let's plant her in Tennessee.
There you go. I love it.
I'm built for it. But after about a year of being there, I was like, we're not giving these people the time of day. We're moving them through a system. Is what's my feeling.
Right.
Yeah. So I found a little office in the Taylor building.
Oh yeah.
And then I just was like, let's go. Let's go.
How long ago was that?
October
this
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are out on your own, entrepreneuring it, and trying to grow your practice, right? Helping people. Tell me a little bit about, like for our listeners, if you're suffering or hurting, or what type of people or who are you looking for to connect with you to where where you feel like you can best help them?
Sure. Well, first, I love people.
I do too.
I love people.
Aren't they great?
I mean, it's crazy how annoying we are with each other too. Like the spectrum is real. Like some days you're like, I can't people today.
Yes.
But at the heart of it, there's just the innovation and the heartfelt connections that can happen. One of my favorite quotes is, "A miracle is a shift in perspective." So the people I work with normally have a crisis happening. People don't hire coaches to celebrate, really.
I have a business coach, Chad.
Yes.
But it's more help than celebration. Sometimes we celebrate, but I get it.
We come in at the problem point,
right?
Yep. And sometimes it's just a little problem, but sometimes it's someone's whole life path. So the core of people I help is sort of in the should I stay or should I go in relationships. 70% of people who go to marriage and family counselors who are married will end up being divorced because they waited to the crisis. So I really am trying to emphasize prevention.
Yeah.
That's a big part of the holistic
healthy relationship
building an emotional intelligence is really about know thyself. Mm-hmm. That is like, so it's just a know thyself.
Know thyself, right.
Okay. But to do it.
We're so complex, and like, you're wondering like, where is all this coming from at times, and it's deep in your soul and just coming out, which is, can be fun or can be not so much,
And then the other thing that is unique for me about being in the South or in Tennessee is the dominant religious culture that's here. Mm-hmm. And not all churches are created equal.
No, they're and you can throw a rock and hit one. So we've got like 700 in our area. There's a lot. 700? Isn't that crazy?
Someone just said 100, 700.
I think it's something like that.
My goodness. So when I was starting my healing practice, and I don't mean that from an arrogant stance. Like, I'm not doing the healing. I'm just facilitating. Like, I'm just holding the space for somebody to actually unburden there's a saying in AA, you're as sick as your secrets. And so that really, when you start to be able to not have that be some internalized thing, it makes a big difference. And so I started to get really curious about where Christianity helps mental health and where it can hinder it. Mm-hmm. And I've just begun interviewing pastors. I couldn't really release the study, but the differentiation is pastors who preach fear versus those who preach love.
And hope, right?
And hope.
Yeah. I don't get the fear. I mean, I understand there's a healthy fear because it says fear the Lord in the Bible over and over. And there's a healthy fear for sure, but he loves you and created you. And I don't think he wants you to be afraid of him. But there are consequences for sin, right? And so you should have a healthy fear of the consequences. But overall, he's a loving, caring, deeply relational God that I think we should spend more time with.
And you're saying something so just profound in this moment, which is the deeply relational piece. I don't know if you've noticed how individualized we've become in our society, hyper individualized, me, myself, and I as the Trinity.
That's funny. I hadn't heard that. I like that.
So
it can be true. I've met people like that.
Yeah. And I really been considering my industry because I was like, I don't know if we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like in some ways we've kind of fallen to the mass, to the mob of just giving advice and prescribing. And I'm really I'm taking a stance to be like, I'm a relational and reflectional based counselor. Like, it's not like and I fall in trap into in my marketing because it's easy to do. the whole thing is like coaches are like this aspirational thing. Manifest your dreams, get everything you want, and then you'll feel so happy. Clinical counselors are like, we're going to fix the past. Let's go review the past, let's go in.
Where were you hurt? What happened?
What happened?
Why are you today?
Yeah, right. Past, future. And so we heal in the present moment.
Yeah, right here is all we have. You and I right now, this minute.
Yeah.
And the people listening on the podcast right now, all you have is this minute right now. And then you got the next one, hopefully, or the next one.
And then you have the breath in your lungs. So I didn't know if I was going to talk about this today, but it feels so important to me because I totally have been, since I'm on the precipice of my 44th birthday, and it's the end of the year, life in review.
There you go. Yeah.
That's really.
And setting goals for the coaching next year.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So anybody who wants that is also a good client for me. Somebody who's really ready to reflect.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, the decisions I made at 27 are still echoing into my present life. And so I'm not sure if you've heard the sermons that sin means to miss the mark. It's a archery term.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, miss the mark on archery for sure.
So sin is to just miss the mark. And so I've really been looking back at the areas I've missed the mark, because when you come into your 40s, you're supposed to have relationships, real estate. And
I can help you with the real estate part.
Yeah, you're supposed to have assets built up and all these things. And I was like, I have missed the mark. So that made me rethink the verse, the wages of sin are death. Because to me, and especially in my line of counseling, death doesn't literally mean the body dying. It means that things there's no life in that. It's not there's no life in drinking, there's no life in addiction, there's no life in running around and having these whatever, side chick relationships kind of stuff. There's a lot of chasing that happens.
Yes.
And you don't know it when you're young that you're missing the mark. But I really had to sit with myself and go, doing that over and over, since the wages of sin, they don't pay anything.
That's true. Or they do pay in a lot of pain.
They pay in consequence.
Correct.
As opposed to commitment, as opposed to being established, as opposed to moving forward. And then what happens is it creates a domino effect, because you do it one time and it's so uncomfortable that you do anything to just escape that discomfort, and then anything to escape that discomfort. And then you look around and you're like, how did I get here? You didn't stop to reflect.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I didn't really have good mentors either.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. Like, I look back on my life and I've had some great guys surround me and really help shape who I am today.
So I have a friend who's been in real estate for 30 years.
Okay.
So why real estate for you?
So I kind of one of those moments you look back and you're like, oh, this was a path I took because I had met a friend, Ray Jones, he was an Irish runner here at ETSU, and he was like, oh, you got to be getting into real estate. And he's like, I'm investing, and he's a real estate investor still and developer. And at the time I was like, yeah, okay. But I was working as a assistant golf course superintendent. And September 11th happened, and I worked for Marriott, and we lost tons of money and hotels around Ground Zero, and everybody, lots of people were cut and to save the company, right? So I was a middle manager guy, got there early, worked late, hard, and I was like, I don't have a job now. And I was on my severance package, and I think it's the Lord. I was reading the paper, and it said, come get your real estate license. And I was like, well, I'm not getting any smarter just sitting here reading the paper. So I literally put down the paper, picked up the phone, went and enrolled, started the next week. And that was 22 years ago. And so loved it ever since. But I think when I got started, it was more like, oh, I'm going to sell houses, make money, It wasn't like, oh, I'm connecting with people, helping them change their lives and And what's really important to them is now what's important to me. So it's like evolved a lot, like I just love connecting with people. That's why I do this podcast a lot, because I want to connect with people and share them with our audience. And then they get to connect with you, and it's just this beautiful circle of community. And through that, I get to help them, with their housing and develop wealth. And like you said, real estate and building kind of assets. So it's fun.
And having witnessed my friend Sherry do it, you're an honorary counselor as well.
Yes. There are a lot of times where I'm like, let's just pump the brakes. Let's talk about it. Let's pray about it a little bit. Yeah. And I think that's where we come in a lot of times too, because you'll be like, I can't believe they're not going to fix that chimney. I mean, look at this hole in the thing. And you're like, they're the worst. And then I'll go, okay, on the other side of it, well, the chimney's a little bit of an issue. If we could get that worked, but if we let you and the other person talk, sometimes it just blows the deals up. So we are very much mediators and conflict.
You're a relational liaison too, because you have to make these connections that happen. And so, and that's another thing I have such empathy for is our first responders.
Oh my gosh.
That are really there, because it's one thing for me, and I was really feeling this when I was working in this boxing clinic, is that I'm seeing the person like alive, not Narcaned, not in the middle of their overdose. And so many of our professionals here that's their reality
every day.
And I know that there is, again, there's evidence-based sort of support. Some districts will teach meditation as help. There's somebody who's I paralleled in Denver. She has a book called New Beliefs, New Brain, about neuroplasticity and treating PTSD. But yes, like in the relational space, there's a saying that relationships are where we are wounded, but relationships are where we heal as well. So knowing your safe people, the people that you can go, and I have such a heart for the teachers, the nurses, the first responders. I have a sliding scale built in my business just for that reason. I'm doing my best to make my business both sustainable to keep it going financially, to keep the prices where they need to be to sustain it, but also accessible. And that has been some of the leap of faith, is just leap and then build it out. One little and any entrepreneur out there.
Oh, I know. They all know too. Yeah, we're always trying to figure it out. How do we do it better and serve people better? But it all comes back to people, right?
Yes, and you've been in the industry. There's seasons and cycles.
Yes, we're in an interesting one now. So yeah.
Oh,
it's a lot of fun and challenging. Yeah. So it can be how your perspective, and too how you look at it. Is it is it something that's going to crush you and like I can't make it, or is it like a challenge? Like, oh yes, we just need to work a little harder, and there are more people out there to help. We just got to find them. And so.
Well, having, whether it's your spiritual beliefs behind you, right? Like, if he's for me, who can be against me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I'm not necessarily like a faith-based practitioner. I walk with people from all walks of life. So LBGQT, we call them the Alphabet Gang.
That's hilarious.
Obviously, people who are in addiction, there's the thing I want to impart, there's no judgment here. That's not That's not what it's really, I just have to emphasize, as long as I'm here and have the opportunity, that my intention is to be a safe person and create a safe space where people are truly listened to and they leave with solutions. And it is, like you said, it's about the connection. It's about the people. It's about one person healed is a ripple effect into the community.
Yeah. Or it changes a whole family.
Oh, I'm going to get real Pentecostal if you just let me go off on that.
There you go. Well, I mean, you start thinking about you've helped keep a family together, right? then the change in their kids, and then how that ripples down through their lives, and I mean, it's just amazing.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful. So
yeah, and marriage is no joke.
Marriage is no joke. It's tough sometimes.
I mean,
but it's one of the most beautiful things ever as well. So my wife, I say every day, I outkick my coverage. My wife is fantastic. And I don't know how she puts up with me. Yeah.
That's
I definitely married up. I don't know what she was thinking, but
I mean, that's the gift of relationship, is because if it's in the healthy form, it's an amplification, right? Mm-hmm. It's two people coming together, they create a third entity, and that entity ends up being a North Star, and you kind of get to grow together. It's just that space where there's dissonance, there's not agreement, that I work. And I've been very transparent about this. All my social media is very transparent that I've not been married. And so there is some irony to me being a relationship healer.
Gotcha.
But the undertone of life has this similarity. We want to belong. Mm-hmm. We want to know that we're okay. Mm-hmm. And if you really start to work on yourself, I saw this reel today that said, your gifts are not for you. Your gifts are
to give away.
Yeah, to give away. Where you're not in this like tight scarcity.
And you see those people, like they're just all tightened up and just anxious and afraid, and it's all about, I've got to hold on to I've got to get mine, and I don't really care what I do to you to get what I want. Oof. And it's just, that energy is awful. And so I pray all the time that I'm not that guy, right? And so how do we, Lord, use me to further your kingdom and love people every day. And it seems,
well, you're doing it right now.
Well, it seems like, I think, and that's what you're called to do. And so,
yeah,
it's exciting.
There's certainly many times where I'm like, why am I doing this? But the no risk, no reward, to be able to, there's something to be said about entrepreneurship being a spiritual path, because it teaches you so much about your fear, your stopping points too. So there's a saying, do it anyway. Do it scared, do it messy, do it anyway.
Yeah, I've seen a guy, I think he says, do something scary every day. Something that scares you every day.
It's a really nice saying until you do it. You do it.
Yeah, at the first few podcasts, I was like, this is scary. But now it's like so awesome. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as we're talking, like the scene in The Grinch Stole Christmas where his heart grows. Like,
yes, there you go, yeah.
That really is like the sense that I have for Johnson City is there's many, many clinical counselors here who are boarded, who will take insurance. So I understand I'm not for everybody.
Right.
But I really am for people who want the best for themselves.
Yeah. And so people, mainly marriage clients, or just who's
relationship.
So you got to have a relationship of some sort, right?
Well, yes. And there are three fundamental relationships. The one with yourself, which we talked about, know thyself.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I wish our industry wasn't necessary, but because of abuse and because of guilt and because of shame and because these are skill sets of which we need to learn to truly navigate.
Right.
Otherwise, people lean towards addiction a lot of times. So know thyself, really, truly know thyself, because it makes you more successful in the other arenas of life. The second is, if you're going to be in relationship with anybody else, family members, spouses, dating relationships, those like dynamic two-way relationships. Like, I really am able to help people know how to best communicate and get that anywhere there's those insecurities, which I'm rejection sensitive. I will admit that right away. Someone just looks at me sideways and I'm like, ow. because I'm
feelings just looking at me.
Because I'm so relational. I want to be, but it, sometimes it's a thorn bush to do that, to make those connections. And then the other one is whatever your spiritual practice is. Whatever, in AA, it's higher power, or in many of the different religious practices out there, those are three fundamental relational places that really spin off into your relationship with your finances, your relationship with your community, your like all the other auxiliary kind of places. But we work from the we root to rise, is the saying. Yeah, root to rise. We work from the roots. We really get into the core of it,
which is ourself first, right? And then you can heal yourself.
Yeah, you're not going to wake up in a different body.
Right.
You're not, and your geography and the body that you're in is a little bit of a lotto, and there's so much comparison that can be done. So really saying, I use the phrase anointed and appointed.
Oh, yeah.
For a specific role. And it's easy to glamorize all the other roles because we just see the end results of those roles. We just see, and even people who are talking about bootstrapping it, it's very glamorous to hear it. It's not glamorous to do it.
Yeah.
So
suffering.
Yeah. So that truly relationship healing is sort of a ground up experience. And so if I could blink or wiggle my nose or whatever it would be from like Samantha and Bewitched or whatever.
Twinkle, twinkle.
Yeah. Being able to work with people for like a 6-month period because it's a therapeutic relationship.
It's a process.
It's a
not
process.
An overnight
Yeah. I'm efficient, but same with the gym. You're not going to reverse. You're not going to reverse like 25 years, 35 years in like one session. I can do my best.
Right. But there's some work to do there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, there's work to do.
Yeah. I think we're interesting on many levels, and there's a lot to us as humans, and just trying to figure ourselves out, and then being able to, how do I then take that and make help someone else be better is kind of the main goal, right?
And then, I've been using the word, so one of the pastors I interviewed, he said Tennessee is tribal.
No, it's agreed,
and
in some regards, but also Johnson City is very welcoming, I think, too. So we are tribal potentially, but we also will bring you in. We're not like a walled off tribes kind of thing, like we're not going to war with you. We would rather have you in our little circle.
Sure.
And I think that's why our area is thriving and growing, because people just come here and they feel welcome. And we just had a nice couple with the Pierre's Marketplace, and they came and they felt, within 2 days, they felt like this is just a great place. We want to raise our family here. And they moved here. And
well, what you're doing with this podcast is really helpful because, when you're new, not knowing exactly what to plug in or who's here, or it's a real, there's some other people working in the publication space too, to like help guide people to not feel like they're outsiders.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of the Appalachian history though. You're an
sure.
outsider.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so,
you don't sound like you're from around here.
You're not from around here.
You ain't from around here. But yeah, I think what you're doing too is definitely helping our community. So I really appreciate it. I'm excited for your business to.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, you could probably work 24 hours a day if you had enough clients. And
I love it so much. Like just. It's not fancy. Listening is not fancy. It's not some complicated procedure that's happening. It's the simplest things are the most profound. So giving people the space to be able to hear themselves, helps them heal themselves. And in regards to the tribal kind of component, that building of community is so important for our mental health as well. It's a big
I don't know how people do it without community. Like when you're isolated and alone, I feel like that's where Satan goes to work on your mind and your heart, and just, it's sad. Yeah, so you would probably advise people to have deep, meaningful relationships with people. Where do they go to find those if they don't have them? In your mind, where's the best place to go?
So there's and I've not attended yet, I've just learned of it. There's the Dharma Center here for people who want to learn how to meditate. And I know as far as meditation goes from a clinical perspective, it's not about quieting the mind, because the mind is a noisy place.
Yeah.
It's very noisy. When you actually sit on the cushion, it's like, did I turn off the stove? What do I have to do? What's my to-do list? And
do. Oh, I forgot that.
And what happens is we call it getting hooked. So you get a thought and then you're off to the races. You leave the present moment. So the Dharma Center is a good community place
to help release that thought and just stay.
One of the, again, popular things here in the South is your church family.
100%. I'm glad you said that. Yes.
Yes. That's
our community there is just fantastic. And Carly and I were talking the other day, like all of our friends, for the most part, are now church friends, which is just cool, because you get to see them all the time and you do life with them.
And that's where I'm kind of exploring, like, where is that helpful? Where does that create like an in-group and an out-group? Because there's a lot of, people in isolation. And then there's all the other normal suspects, which are people try to go to the bars or those other sort of places that are social adjacent. You're just next to a person, but you're not really necessarily connecting with them. So,
or you could play sports with, you could be on a team with somebody, or have a golfing buddy, or get in a club, or there are tons of clubs around, or maybe we like to knit together. I don't know. I'm just making it up, but
there's lots
of little cliques and clubs out there.
Sure, there's lots of different places where you can find your community. So the dance is like as within, so without. Like let me check in here and reflect, and then. Because there are seasons of my life that I can be really social, and there's seasons of my life where I'm like, I can't.
Right.
I don't have the bandwidth. I can't do it.
I think that, and for you to know that is healthy too, as opposed to just keep going into it and, diving in. You need your space.
Yes. That one of the sessions I recently did was on discernment, about speed is not the friend of discernment when we're trying to move quickly, because of whatever reason, desire, then a lot of times we'll blow past our knowing.
Yeah.
We'll all the way.
Yeah. And then you look back and you're like, oh, wait, I'm in a different spot than I wanted to be, potentially.
And so it's very interesting being able to talk about the work. It's like being able, as opposed to just, because there is an isolating component to being a counselor in its own sense. And so that was another awareness I had when I was working at the clinic. I go, we're not really debriefing. We're not really, so I tried to like have lunches with my peers to be able to hype them up when I was there, because I just go, acknowledgement is so important. That's why we have awards for each other.
Right.
Like they do in real estate, sure they have your annual
yes,
whoever.
Well, you can't, and some people get excited about those. Some people don't. But that's okay.
Yeah. Wherever your values sort of
but it is, you want to be recognized or known or seen or whatever you want to call it.
It's a fundamental component of our mental health is there's like stages of it, which is you need to know that you matter to the point that you go, oh, I don't. Like there's this sort of like paradox to it.
It is a little interesting, right? Because you want to be humble at all times.
Right.
Because it's not about you, but on the other side of it, you want to be seen and known and loved as well. It's like a balance that I think the Lord created so that you are in relationship. And that's the only place you can get it. Is in a relationship to where you have that dynamic, whether it's client relationship or any, you just any interactions you go through your day, you want to be known as, I'm helping this person, and did they feel helped or loved, or and then does that person love you back? It's part of that equation.
And the health, again, there's and one of my studies is world religions, so Taoism, the sort of yin yang. For every hardship, there's joy because you're going to be released from that hardship. For every joy, there's sadness because you're going to go in. So that's what the symbol really means, is the sort of balancing point of those things. And that is the phrase, is that our mental health is contingent on our ability to tolerate paradox, meaning these two things are going to exist at once all the time. It's not going to be this like panacea where everything is great all the time.
Yeah.
And when you're in the hard, like the scary, stressed out, like, I don't know, it's not going to stay that way forever.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I'm really getting a church principle coming back. When we're in our happiest times, we neglect our spiritual relationship because we kind of feel like, I got this.
I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
I got this. I
got
really.
this, right. But everything comes from Him and through us. So it's all from Him. So staying connected is huge.
Staying connected is big. And I encourage people to not tell other people this very popular phrase is, you got this.
Oh.
Because I go, oh.
You don't have it.
No.
I've seen a lot of times where you don't have it.
No.
This is what's going to happen.
Yeah. No way, Jose, do we got this. Because not of our own volition, not all on our shoulders, like the lone wolf fallacy.
Yeah. And I think, I think we maybe use it circumstantially. Like I'll say to my sons, you got this for this test or whatever, but they've done the work ahead of time. So you're just kind of trying to, but they know that it's not up to them just for all of it. So teaching that to people, but
There's the Gottman Institute, which they studied relationships for
the Four Horsemen.
For like 30 some years, even longer than that now. And they said, there is a point where you can either turn towards or turn away. Are you familiar?
It sounds familiar. I've read some of I think it's John Gottman.
John Gottman. Yeah. And so sometimes I think the phrase, you got this, is a little bit of a turning away.
Right.
Like, I've got my own stuff and I can't really. But a turning towards is when someone's like, I'm going through this, is at least a moment of curiosity of like, tell me what that's like for you.
Yeah.
Which is, there is a phenomenon here in Tennessee, which someone called trauma dumping.
Oh.
Where you might ask somebody how you're doing and you'll get not like a fine.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You'll get the whole thing.
And I come back a lot of times, I'll be like, are you really fine? And because I do care about you. I want you to tell me. And so, if you want to dump your trauma on me, that's okay, because I'm ready. But, I think you might be right. Some people maybe aren't asking from a deeply caring position. They're just kind of like, hey, how's it going?
How's it going?
And they're like, oh, I'm doing terrible. And you're like, oh, okay. So, yeah.
And even for me, who's like trained in, like has my master's, has just been a student for all this time, when it's out of context, like in a grocery store or a coffee shop, and someone talks about them being like sexually assaulted or something in that space, it even makes me bristle.
Oh yeah.
It's a hard place to be. And I struggle internally because I go, when we do things out of context, it can actually cause more injury in that space. And so that was one of the notions I had of my business. I was like, I wonder who in a corporate setting would need training to be able to navigate those spaces, right? When a difficult, because listen, It happens. It just happens. And to be able to be with that, to be present with that person enough to be able to make sure there's not a re-injury there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will reflect back to them, like, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not really in a place to hold this, right? Yeah. So there's that's from imago therapy, which is like, what I hear you saying is, but this is where I'm at right now. So you can stay in a relationship and still create that boundary.
Yeah.
Is an important kind of part of us being successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you and your business. I'm excited for you to help some of our community here and probably all over the world. You can call in probably too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm coast to coast. I'm national. And I have had clients from all over. I contend with the time difference sometimes, but because I'm just a solo practitioner and a small like boutique business, my prices are a little bit higher. They're about $150 for 90 minutes. And then I have like people, if they want to work with me for a longer extended time, we do custom packages. They're about $5K right now, 5,000 for 6 months. But being sensitive to 56% of Americans are being impacted by mental health issues because of finances, I'm building out things that will make my services like accessible and affordable so that I can help as many people as possible.
Right, which is the goal.
Yeah,
I can feel that coming from you. You like helping people.
Yeah, is to really, because that creates that community ripple effect. So again, people from first responders, other therapists who are in burnout, because it's a real thing. You need your own space to be able to be like,
yeah, I got to get rid of this. I'm not holding on to it. How do our listeners connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is through my website,
okay.
RebekahFreedom.com,
Gotcha.
REBEKAH, freedom.com. Since my dad was a pastor, it's spelled the biblical way.
There you go.
Yeah. And then I'm located in the Taylor building, but because I'm a hybrid, you can just book a free consultation.
Nice.
So I don't want people just to impulse buy. I want to be able to create that connection first.
Yeah, I think you have to be able to connect with your therapist on a level for sure.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize that I am a relationship coach, because they're legal terms.
I got you. Sorry. I shouldn't have used the word therapist. I apologize. Scratch that from the record.
It's therapeutic, but not necessarily therapy.
There you go. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really enjoyed meeting you and look forward to you thriving and being a Johnson Cityan for a long time, hopefully. We'll see, unless you choose to move elsewhere, but I mean, that's a great place to live. And thank you guys for listening to our conversation. Connect with Rebekah if you're hurting, and if she's not the right fit for you, she can maybe connect you with someone who is, but you can just tell she's got a great heart to want to help you and grow your relationship and hopefully make your life better, right? Yeah. And so until next time, I'm Colin Johnson with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. If you want to move here and meet Rebekah face to face, we'd love to help you find a home here or help you invest in real estate and manage your property. We do that a lot too. So thanks so much and have a great day.